Hi, everybody. This is Michelle Carpenter. I'd like to introduce you to Michelle, a lovely lady I had the pleasure of bumping into. Wow, and we just connected. It's like a soul sister. She's got that chutzpah. Yeah, you've got that. Oh, I love it. That you've got that zest for life. You know, that little spark, that craziness. I call it a little bit of crazy. And I've got that, that wild, that little bit of just that spark. Impulsive, and I saw that in you, and I know that I resonated with that. I thought, yeah, that naughty, that lively, that sparky. I think it's when I saw that. No, I like this woman. So this is Michelle, a lovely one, like everybody, starseed, light worker, that's on the path. And well, I tell you what, what comes to me, she is going to be very good in healing, especially in grief counseling. So for people working through loss, whether it's a divorce, a boyfriend, a husband, a loved one, a parent, very much. I don't know why, but that seems to be a gift. I don't know. You seem to be gifted to work with helping people with people passing. That's what very much came to me. And that is a huge wound. That is our biggest grief, actually. That's some of the things that hold people back and give them out. What else?
Yeah, I do, and I have, and I've experienced a lot of grief myself. So this might sound incredibly crazy, but my biggest aha moment, or my most compassionate moment for anybody, any client that I'm working with online or somebody that's here in my therapy room, is when they actually allow their bodies and their vulnerability and that massive grieving moment. Because so many of us live in our heads, Anna, so many of us, and I've been there, I can go there every now and again, and when the healing happens, when that absolute, and it's just like I have the ability to feel when somebody's heart contracts into sadness and expands into joy and bliss, like the vibration just expands. And when somebody's
amazing, so you can feel that contraction and expansion in the people as they, oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's developed over time, where I just feel that, and if somebody's carrying a lot of pain, I sense the pain. It's almost like it's kind of like a slash, like that goes through the heart, and it's just in the moment, and I go, oh, there's the pain. They might talk about their story, or they might talk about something that, and it's kind of like their head's going, no, 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 but their heart's going, yes, there's the pain, there's the pain. So I feel the pulsation of when the heart contracts and when it expands.
Wow.
And so I'm able to say to a person in the moment, there it is, feel your vulnerability. And I know it sounds irrational or illogical, but in the moment, I'll say to somebody, that's it, just feel it. And then it's kind of like giving their hearts, their souls permission to expand, but to let go. And sometimes it's, I'm a very when somebody's here, I am an affectionate person naturally, but sometimes it's just holding a person's hand. And I'll say to a person, even in the moment of, like you and I connecting online, I'll say to them, just allow. And if I was there right now, I would just want to jump out of the computer and hug you. So I'm really, really good with grieving.
This is curious. Can you also see where there's this dark energy, as far as the physical healing side, where can you see the energy in the body and where it is and where the blocks are and stuff?
Yes, I do. I see and I sense within my body too. So, for argument's sake, if somebody is talking about a partner or a person that has hurt them, I feel the energy in my liver. And I've been questioned about this, because often it's like, oh, Michelle, like you must feel exhausted after sessions, but I know that it's just in the energy. We're light beings, so it's just in the energy, and I feel where the energy starts to move as the person is allowing themselves to either talk. When there's trauma, I'm taken right into their conscious mind, and I feel it here. And it moves. Energy's moving all the time. Emotions.
So that's good. You've really tuned yourself in, and you know why? Because as even if you listen to Bashar, you've really got the fine tuning of, you are calibrating, syncing to that person's energy. So you are absolutely calibrating. Like when we tap into something, it's probably why you're good at channeling too. So you have got, you've in your subconscious tone or honed the ability to tap in so you, or I should say, align your frequency vibration to calibrate to there. So you're absolutely able to see, feel. Oh, wow, that's very fine
Yes.
tuned, really good.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
well done.
yeah, thank you for that because I actually didn't think of even expressing it like that. But it
It is.
actually is, even if somebody goes into fight, flight, or fright, I
Mm,
can feel when their nervous system's in the sympathetic, and as soon as they expand into the parasympathetic. But when they go into a space of, like, I had a
wow.
client the other day, and I could feel that she was in this paralysis space when she was 3 or 4 years old. Like, we went down a journey of her being, and I said, and I would say to a client, between the ages of 0 and 7, what's the first number that comes to mind? Because for me, it's also teaching them to
Mm,
trust their intuition.
mm,
Sometimes I might say I'm getting something between the ages of 3 to 6 years old, which obviously is very general. Excuse me, but it's I say, what are you getting? What are you sensing? But I can feel that and I'll say, and I'll bring attention into their bodies, even though that they may say, Michelle, I'm not feeling that. It's okay. Just trust what you're getting. And she said, I've been having issues with my feet lately. Yes, that makes sense. And so as she's experiencing she'll say, that's it. I can feel my feet. I'll say, yeah, there's the paralysis, and
mm.
then the story starts to unfold,
Fear of
or
moving forward, the
vice
stuck,
versa.
this. You know what? I found that interesting. You see, that look at the amount of trauma you've gone through. That's why I'm saying nothing. Our souls are so benevolent. They are really will go through that suffering to help for the collective, for the highest and greatest good. Everything's for a high purpose. Everything's for divine good.
Yeah.
Suffering, it has a fantastic purpose. So benevolent. It's so lovely, actually. So to think that your soul put you through that, so you have that understanding, that empathy, and now you've been gifted with those very fine-tuned abilities to help people with exactly trauma to overcome so you put yourself through that to overcome it, to help people understand how amazing your soul is. And that's why this morning when you said to me, no one needs Michelle, I was like, you know, give you a bloody spanking, girl, because
Yes,
oh,
but it felt like an
every
ego death I was going through, because it's such a fine
oh,
line
I feel sorry for
between
my I
being
know.
the rescuer, and I still sort of step into that every now and again, and then I have to step away, but that was a real ego moment of, like, actually, Michelle, just go the ego, actually.
But
Because
because we both experience immense amount of trauma, which is interesting, because I'm knowing that as well, that that you really, I think, because you didn't feel safe in your body, you really were in your mind. You were not in the
for
body.
sure,
I learned
for
it
sure.
was, and every now and then I can tell, and I say, all right, Brown, bring myself to be that fully present and aware back in the body. That's why things like yoga, tai chi, and those things help, actually. It really helps
Yes,
us again to connect with our body and get back in the body, because literally, I was never in my body. I didn't realize that till I started it
absolutely.
slowly. I mean, you are so out the body. The mind is always in the mind. Is not actually, doesn't seem to be even part of the body, the weirdest thing. When you start meditating, you start to discern these things. So we've kind of jumped the gun. I wanted to tell them, they wonder who the hell you. So give them a rundown of some of the things you do. I know you do
That's
reading,
kind of
you do
how we
channeling, you
roll,
do
hey?
yoga. Yeah.
We jump the gun. We're like, oh my God, oh my God. Like, people like you, me, and Jill, we sort of drive, like, I drive my husband mad because he's like, oh my God, you started here, and 15 stories later you're here. And I'm like, just keep up, buddy. Just keep up, okay? He's like, you've lost me.
I do. You like my daughter's like my mom. Focus now.
Yeah, yeah.
The
My
mind.
daughter's the same.
I think that was it, because of the trauma. You were so in the mind and you were so hyped, you act, the overactive, whatever. I know it was
Yes,
very much up here.
yes,
Yeah, I think it could be. I don't know, because that's what I say.
yes.
I know that girl. All right.
Yeah, I make a sort of standing joke, like, Michelle, just come into your body, come into your body, because I do. I
Yeah.
sort of feel like that, even as you and I are talking, I can feel it's like our vibration's so high and it's beautiful. And so yes, so who am I? Okay, I'm Michelle Carpenter, and I used to live in South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa, and we immigrated to New Zealand just over 6 years ago. And I'm a spiritual medium. I am a grief and trauma intuitive and a channeler for the Council of Eight. So those are the labels I go by. And often I get asked, well, what session do I book in for? If somebody books in for a Council of Eight session where they want to connect when I'm channeling, and they want guidance from the Council of Eight, who have shown me they're from the 15th dimension, I close my eyes and I just see pure white light, and they'll say to me, I'm always connected to them, but it's just me sort of just going into the pureness of connection.
Yeah, yeah.
And often, you know, I'm still sensing and feeling what's going through, excuse me, the human that's sitting opposite me, and they will give guidance. But if there's a moment where something is coming through, and the client sitting opposite me, I'm still, like I say, still sensing and feeling. If there's a moment that I can feel their heart contracting, or there's something going on in their body, the counselor said, we're going to hand you over to Michelle, and then I'll work. It's kind of like we molding dough, you know, then I'll
No,
work with
yeah.
the client. I'll say, oh, this is what's coming through right now. I'm just sensing something in your heart, or I'm sensing something in your pancreas, and then we'll take their eyes and we'll go into their body. And I use quite a lot of breath work, and I use music, and I use my tuning forks, and I whistle and I chant. I'm connected to elemental energy too. And it's a healing that happens. So,
Exactly.
and sometimes spirit might just drop in. I might say, well, there's a grandmother figure, or there's a father figure that's just dropped in, and the client will say, oh my word, Michelle, that's my
Oh, for
father.
grief counseling, do some people come to you because they want to maybe make amends, or sometimes what we find is if maybe their loved one hasn't actually left, so it's to send the loved one back. Okay, it's time to go back now. You need to go home. Or do they come to you for channeling, maybe to contact them to make peace? Why did you die? Why did this happen? Or forgiveness or something? Do people come for that sort of grief counseling?
They do. You know, if they want to connect to a loved one, then they'll come specifically for that. And then, as I'm assuming you'd know, that's where there could be a lot of grief. And it doesn't, you know, timelines don't make a difference, whether it's somebody that died 30 years ago, or somebody that died 3 months ago, or 2 months ago, 3 weeks ago. The grief is massive. You know, if it's somebody that died 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, obviously that's still very heavy
Mm.
around the heart area.
And if it
Um,
was
but
also a past life that was never sorted out, that grief, was left like that, it's still, wow, it's still in that.
absolutely, absolutely. You know, and a lot of times, like those sessions for me are incredibly healing. And I've done one
Mm.
big group event, and I've got another one coming up. And in those moments, you know, they can be funny. That's the thing. Like we forget that. I mean, I've even experienced this myself. Is that with my mom passing over last year, when people have brought her through, um, it's you forget the humor. You forget, because sometimes we're so in the grieving of missing that person that I forgot that my mom was actually, yes, she was volatile, but she was just the life and soul of the party a lot of the times, and she just loved to dance. And I was like, oh my god, that's where I forgot my dancing. That's where I forgot my mom brought the music into my life. You know, so we sometimes get so focused on the grieving part of it, is that when we step back, and that's what I love about those connections, is when spirit come through. And sometimes, I mean, just to give an example, I had a client here last week that came and she wanted a body healing, and I was working with her body, and the next minute I said to her, somebody's here, souls just dropped in, and I keep seeing them, they've hung themselves. And she went, oh my word, Michelle, my niece 10 years ago. And 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 then another feminine energy dropped in, and it was one of her friends that had also committed suicide, and that was 3 months ago. So I kind of just let myself just be out. Like Michelle, the personality is there most certainly, because I'm funny, and I can also help through the anger. I help them breathe. I help them. I swear, like sometimes like a trooper. So I think that's
Fine,
where,
and
I think that's where my upbringing and growing a little mining dorpy, a little mining town helped. You
so
know,
you can
but
go. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I love that. You've got that side where, like, you're authentic. It's like fuck everything. You know, you
that's
just,
it.
yeah,
That's it.
that's it. You are
Well,
so, you are just an open book, and I love that. I love it. It's so
oh,
refreshing.
thank you.
I love it.
Well, sometimes I forget to prepare the person, you know, because I might have somebody who's very much a lady, like come and you know, and and we're connecting. I say, listen, I
That's
know you
them,
don't
not
like
you.
swearing, or your mother didn't like swearing, or whatever, but we've got to help you get through this anger, man. Like, let's help you to
Yeah.
find back you, you know. And they're like, huh? And I say, just let it go. I'm going to help you work through this. We're in this together. So that's why I say I walk with a person on their journey. I'm not here to fix, I'm not here to rescue, but I
Yeah.
walk with you
You've got to
to
do the
help
work
you to heal.
because we can't do it for you. But there's something I sent you actually, which I heard the other day. Is it Bashar channeled that symphony, the Beethoven Symphony 7 is perfect, the frequency for healing, for self-healing. You want to do self-healing? He says, listen to that. It'll bring it up. Whether you want it, there's stuff that needs to come up to the surface. I'm going to send it to you. Now, remind me just later, just to send it to you on Facebook. I uploaded it today and I shared a bit of a story with that for people. And I shared a link to someone who's actually used that to track, but I don't know if it's the right frequency. They've changed the frequency. I'll send it to you, and I thought that's interesting because if we all know in this purging at the moment, the cycles of purging and then recalibrated purging, just came out of a purging cycle. Well, so, and then, it's recalibration again. So sometimes you sit there and you know something's there, like you get upset or triggered, or you think, goodness, where's that coming from? I don't know, but you just get emotional. And now you're trying to pull it up to find out where that emotion's coming from. Where's that healing? What's stuck there? Who knows? So if that music helps, well, I'll be like, hello, that'll help a lot. Put it on, to bring it up. But like you said, I was shown. Because if we think of it differently, because how we've been taught of emotions, if we think of emotion, it is only energy and consciousness. So all we do, even the negative thoughts, it's energy. So we don't have to fear them. We don't have to fear the negative or the thing. It's just energy. Just no, thank you. You just don't choose it. You just no, ignore it. Okay, fine. But the feeling, because now this was very much me. I remember doing this as a young child. Don't know how far back when I started this. I don't know, because I haven't done any of this healing stuff myself. Sorry, through my own meditations, yes. Amazing. But I remember there's stuff that popped up. I'd forgotten about stuff actually because I was so little. Mom had almost died on us when I was quite little, and I remember now that picture. I remember when we came to fetch her. She was in hospital for 6 months. We came to fetch her, and that was very scary for a little kid. Anyway, somewhere along the line, I had suppressed all mine. I was like, I wouldn't let people near me. If I was upset, boy, I didn't want you near me. I refused to. It was like closing it in, and I'd hold it in. I don't want to cry. So I never allowed to let those. Well, sometimes you just can't because you suck it up and you carry on. But we didn't realize if we didn't process and understand it, it just kept coming up. So it was stuck there, as we know. So we accumulated. But like now, say something, it triggers me, right? There's something there, whatever. And all of a sudden, I'll get this wave of. We call emotion energy. Let's say emotion, which is we just got to change the name of the things. We get a wave of energy that comes up, which is sadness or grief or and I'm like, okay. Normally you're trying to think, oh no, you're just like you're trying to stop it. We don't just sit with it. We try, but as you see, this is how I've trained, and I was very much trained myself in that line. So I would be like straight away, no, you're trying to press it, and that was always us. So now I was like, no. Then I was shown, bring it up. Well, now what I do is speak to it as a consciousness because it's just an energy. So, okay, I see you. Okay, thank you. So, okay, sadness. Okay, grief. I acknowledge you. Thank you for showing me there. I'll bring you. And it works like a bloody charm. If we see it as something, as a consciousness, I bring it up and I say, yes, thank you for showing me you there. Sadness. And sadness, I recognize you. I acknowledge you. It's all you're going to do is acknowledge it, actually. Because it won't go away. It's there for a lesson. If you acknowledge it, so now I've been taught, this was shown to be kind of a meditation. I was shown how to do this now because I was like really bad at it. So it was okay, sadness. I see you. I recognize. I honor you. Thank you for showing me. It's a messenger. Actually, it's all it is a messenger to say there's something there, and I thank it for the message, and it's gone. The feeling immediately leaves. So that's actually, but meanwhile, we're trying to stop the crying or cry it out, and we're trying like whatever. We completely had it asked about face. If you just actually talk to it and acknowledge it, thank you for showing me. Thank you, I let you come out. I release you. And then you say, you let it go. Because it was just bringing me a message to say, ooh, but now the thing is, ooh, what are you trying to show me? That's the point. That's the part. You've got to try and find.
Absolutely.
What triggered that?
Absolutely. Well, I was taught, and you're so spot on with it because for me, it's a moment in time. Yeah. And the feelings are, even rejection and abandonment is a feeling. It's a feeling of when you're a little person where, as an example, let's say a little girl's waiting for her dad to come home from work, and he's just so busy in his head, and he's had a full day, and he comes home and she's waiting because she's got a drawing that she wants to show him, and he's like, hello, and off. That's a feeling that would bring a feeling of contraction into the body.
Yeah, but
So
that's perception. You see, like the Buddhists told us, it's us. Nothing has a set thing. It's what you label it as. So if you decide, oh, that's wrong, that's projection. They're
yes,
projecting their rejection or their whatever it is. You saying, oh, I'm not worthy because he's ignoring me. You see, and we didn't. Everything is only a mirror, but we didn't know this. So now
yes,
we've got
and
50-something years of clearing to do.
yes, I mean, I could have three siblings in one session, let's say, and they would have one story, and everybody has a different perception of the story of what that may be.
Yes.
So you're 100% correct, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's that person's truth in that moment.
Yes, and it's this. Well, it's frozen there because that you didn't process it, you didn't get the lesson, or you didn't forgive, or whatever it was. It's stuck there. So, like I said, and it was interesting about you. After you were talking about it, was so strange because I've never. I mean, I worked through my mom's, and I went someone to let that go and everything. So that was it. But this, as I said, this man that was like adopted father to me. And just after we had chatted about a night or so ago, another friend who's an island, who's a medium, who's, I don't know, somehow she must have come on, decided to do little free reading things. You could pick a feather, and then people could, choose a color. And then I was just bored. I was just sitting on there. Let me see if anybody wants to chat to me. Why not? Because I've never done it. I don't know what they have, I'll play. So she saw me kind of, she's like, okay. And I said, okay, I'll have the blue one. And this man came through, and I was like, oh, wow. And I had spoken to him, but you see, the thing isn't what I learned there was, well, yes, I had afterwards spoken to him and said, you can go now, it's cool, everything's fine. But what was interesting about him is that I had the feeling was still stuck there, because when I found out that he was dead, it was, wow, when the shit had hit the fan in my life, 2012, when everything happened, and he died. So I was on my way to refuge to go to him for seeking comfort and refuge, and he died. So it was such a blow. I mean, when I needed, it's interesting when that stability rock you think, it was pulled as well. So there was it was. So I remember I got on the plane and I cried. I said, I apologized to the poor man next to me on the plane. I cried the entire flight because I found out when I'm boarding the flight, actually on my way to him, to his place at the airport, I was like, and then I found out that he died. I was like, well, so this was a shock, and you're at the airport waiting to board a plane. So I must have cried the whole plane. I made such a noise. But then you see that stuff. So you're still going to release, even though you've worked maybe through it, you've still, whatever energy you haven't, worked through, let it go, released, it was still there. So when it was very good, it was really healing, because I mean, it triggered me. Wow, I was upset. And then I started, wow, it brought up all of that, which I didn't even know was still, wow. So
yes, yeah.
It's never,
and that's, I mean, even it's even as you're talking now, I can feel like there's a little bit of resonance in the lower half of your lungs, and it's challenging. It's not because and
probably.
it's not challenging. I mean, change my words. It's not challenging, but it can be, because I'm so interconnected, and I just connect, because as you're talking about it, I could just feel it. But it's around your lungs, So you see how the story still brings up a feeling or emotion. And if we just, like you said, if we just allow it, it's just like, and I hope you don't mind me, I kind of feel like I put you on the spot there, but it's just,
Lord.
okay, good.
Okay. You can dig around. You can tell me, Oni, you got something there. You need it. What you can go. And I'm not. Okay. I'm saying open. I mean, if you can see anything.
When I said it's challenging, I was just like, oh, I didn't ask your permission, and that's what, because I'm just in it with anybody at the same. But
we're open. I'm a guinea pig. Put it this way, here we are. I'm a guinea pig for the fun. So you can guinea pig me away all you want.
Okay.
Because I've been through this, the runner myself, and done all this. But I mean, I haven't done healing with someone, or any of that kind of stuff. So who knows? I've been to a psychic once, and I remember they did some sort of a catch stuff. Well, that was past that.
Yeah.
So I haven't a clue. I haven't, no.
No, and that's the thing. It's just trying to help the body to let go of what it's actually holding on to, And my what I did for many, many years was I would sit in the emotion for far too long, and then I'd connected with a gentleman here, and who's a channel, and the channel came through and said, or the entity came through and said, you just sit in it for far too long. And I was like, oh, what does he mean by that? And then I realized that I would sit and I would grieve for hours and hours, and I'd be so depleted on so many levels. And, even if you look at the word depressed, it's deep rest if you break it up.
Well, look, if you look at what the Irish did, the ancient Irish people, they didn't say, they said, sadness is upon me, not I am. You see, this is where we got things. We claimed it as mine. It was never, they said, sadness is upon me, because it's a feeling. You don't have to identify with it or attach, like the Buddhists say, it's attachment. Like these thoughts don't, so they'll come to your mind and you're like, oh, no, oh yes, or whatever, you try and resist or chase them away or not think it. If you ignore them, you just let them, as though they just pretend it's just water floating. That's controlling, getting control of the ego or the mind, as they say, to quieten the mind, because the mind will keep doing it. If you keep grabbing at things that, thoughts, if you keep saying, oh yeah, okay, not yes, or thinking or agreeing with the mind, the thoughts, it will never stop. That's how you learn to quieten the mind, is by ignoring it completely. They ignore the thoughts. I did it for a while. It works like a bloody charm. You can't even imagine the clarity you get.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely, yeah. Well, it is. Our mind is so incredibly strong, and I didn't grasp this throughout working through my own trauma. It's like, and I've sought therapy for a long time. We've discussed it before when, just having PTSD from many different experiences living in South Africa. And I'm talking about in the last sort of 15 years of my life of living in South Africa. There was a lot that happened with us as a family. And so I know that I'm still working through some of that. But I don't sit in it as much. But here's an experience that, and this is how, for me, how our higher selves guide us, okay, in terms of healing the little girls inside of us. So my husband was doing cold water therapy here, so we're going into summer, so we're just coming out of winter, okay, and he was doing cold water plunging, and then he said to me the one time, okay, come with us.
Anyway, sorry.
Well, this was in the ocean, so he was going into the ocean. I was like, okay,
and
in the ocean, yeah. So
it's like Cape Town, where, yeah, I learned that.
Very much so. Yeah. So here we are with beanies, thick jackets, freaking boots, and I had a friend of mine here that was from Queenstown. Now, Queenstown is a beautiful mountainous place, which is pretty cold for me about 10 months of the year. And so I said to her, come, let's go do this as an adventure. But what happened was, there was a large group because it was a Saturday morning, and they had the TV crew there and everything. And I could really starting to feel, because my husband was like very much in it, and he's like, come say hi to this one, come say hi to this one. And I could really feel I was starting to go through some emotions and feelings, because I, as much as I love to be the life and soul of the party at times, I could just feel I was withdrawn, and I was standing back because I could feel that this was going to be a big experience for me. So basically what had happened was, they had introduced everybody. They said there was this crew that was there, and as a little girl, I didn't like pressure being put onto me at all. So I could feel I was standing back, but I was also sensing the I want to say the feelings, but I was sensing the energy that was going on, because people were already like I was just watching and noticing and observing in my higher space, but Michelle, the human, was standing there, and I was like, oh, I don't like called it the best of times, man. Yeah, it's just freaking okay. So in my head,
in Africa, yeah, exactly. It's bloody
exactly. So, and I'm thinking, what the fuck am I doing here? This doesn't make sense. Anyway, so long story short, I said to my friend, okay, we're standing there. In our heads, we're thinking, literally, we're going to stand here with a cup of coffee and like wave everybody on. And in the moment, I said to her, come on, we're here right now. Let's do this. Now, there's freaking steam coming off the ocean already, okay? 0 degrees outside. I think the ocean was, they said it was like 8 or 9 degrees or something, okay? So cold. So anyway, I said to her, come on. Took off beanies, took off jackets. I'm like looking for my friend Linda. The next minute I look, she's beelined it. She's like in it, okay? I'm the last person. Everybody goes into the ocean and they go 3, 2, 1, and they all sort of submerge up to here. Now, I'm the last person going in for whatever reason, I do not know, but I let out this big, massive, woo! Like it had to come out before I went in. Anyway, so the next minute, but it was a complete and utter rigmarole of freaking all sorts. Okay, so I like went in. You know, you get that ice cream headache. Okay, my feet were in only. Let out this big woohoo, and then I was like, okay, Michelle, you've got to do this. Go in. And then I got my vajayjay got so numb as well. So I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. Now it was full moon.
I've
There was
been
snow in
through.
the mountains, and the sun was coming up. So picturesque. It was beautiful, and but I could feel I completely disassociated from my body as I was going in. Just with the woohoo, I just in that moment I completely my spirit disassociated. My husband has a very soothing voice, and I was feeling disorientated, and I was like, oh my god, I could see the steam, and Brent just came to me. He said, okay, Bun, we call each other Bunny. He's like, just listen to my voice, just tune in. And then I had my friend Linda, and she was saying, Mesh, look at the moon, feel into the energy of the moon. But I could feel that little girl just like gone,
Yeah,
and I just tuned into him, and he said, okay, just breathe, hold your hands,
yeah,
just breathe. But it was the power of the mind at the same time. So I saw him, he was in front of me, I looked at him, he's got beautiful blue eyes. I was like, okay, I can do this. And I slowly but surely went in. But what had happened, the process of the rest of the day, I was completely out of my body, because I went into shame and embarrassment. I thought I embarrassed him because this was his group, I thought I embarrassed him. As we were walking out, I mean, I literally went in for a few seconds, and it felt like my kidneys were being seared. I'll never forget it. I was like, what the hell am I doing? And I thought, this is the past life coming in, because my kidneys felt like they were burning. And I was watching everybody, and they were all like, and I'm thinking, in what world is this the last experience at all? Okay.
oh, you're supposed to be 2 minutes, and any more is the mind. But the Buddhists do it. It's being able to have control, but that's practice. I mean, that's people really practice. It's when you've got
Yes.
the mind such control over the body, yes, no problem. But the normal person, no, that's just shock therapy. It's like
100%. So now, so the story continues that I said to him, he said, just listen to your body. I said, I said, I'm done. Like, as soon as I went in and I stood and I breathed a little bit, and then he said, are you okay? And I said, I'm fine. And then whatever, it might have been a minute or 2 minutes, but I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then you walk out, and then my friend Linda and I, we've still got a video. I've got her phone, but I'm like, like holding the phone. And I'm like, how was that for you, Lens? How was it? And her and I have the most ridiculous sense of humor. And she's like, oh my God, it was, but like our bodies are red, okay? And again,
it's like, and they get hot, it tingles so much. You know what I was, you know what I learned? This is interesting.
Yeah.
For a bit, Llandudno, that side of Cape Town, it's so freaking cold. The coast is like that Atlantic. Anyway, and I watch people, and I was like, that water, even when it's so hot in summer, beautiful, I mean, turquoise, clear water, white sands, a beach, and everything, and you're cooking like 30, 40 something, and lying 35 in the sun, but you don't want to swim because that water is so freaking cold. You have to be so hot. But I had a friend who was a lifesaver. And that lifesaver taught me how to swim. I used to watch people. I thought, how the hell, like you said, the pain, it's shock and pain and everything hurts.
Yeah.
And your veins feel like, yeah, it's really weird. But I used to watch them swimming with the dolphins and playing. And I thought, how did they manage to stay in the water? She told me, she said, that's a trick. Like when you went in and that flipping, freezing shock, burning in it, it's painful, actually. It's really painful, actually.
Yeah.
It can get very, So when you go in and you get that, you go out the water, and then you get that, as you said, that tingling, like burning shock. That's when you go back in and you're numb.
Yes.
You can
Yes,
go back in and you can be in for 10 minutes and you feel nothing.
100%.
When you get that
100%.
hot flash tingling, you go back in. I
Yes,
don't know.
that's
I mean,
exactly,
I had no
that's
idea.
100%. That's exactly what I've learned. And but it, just to go back to the power of the mind, that's what happened was I left, but the whole day it brought up old emotions for me, just about my dad drinking. So I really had to nourish and nurture myself. Like I came home and I had a bath, and it was lovely that I had my friend here because she's also done a lot of work on herself, and she just kept saying, are you okay? And I said, I'm just tender. Like I'm just tender because of those old emotions of shame, embarrassment, again, we come from the generations of you don't embarrass your parents. A lot of my voice box was stifled. Michelle, you're seen and not heard. And so
Do you remember our parents came for the Victorian age. Exactly. Children were seen and not heard. You had dinner, you went to bed, the whole thing. And that was very disciplined of them. And then they did it to us. And it's like we got a little bit, and each generation was a little bit less, a little bit more rebellious, but yeah, we suffered because of that. Yeah, I know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was just this real process, because then I think I went back like a week or two later. I mean, I just had a bath and I just had to keep being gentle and kind to my little Michelle inside. I just kept talking to her and saying it's okay, because it was interesting how energetically people would come up to me afterwards when we were having a coffee and going, oh, so this is how I interpreted it, whether they said it in that way, but because of my own feelings, they were, one woman came up and said, oh, so were you the woman in the bikini and that gave out that rip roaring scream? And I was like, yep, that was me. So now already I'm internalizing the feelings of shame, and it's kind of like she probably meant well in that moment. And then another guy who runs the whole thing said, I felt your vibration. I felt that big woohoo. He goes, that was the best part, man. And I was like, thank you. So it was so interesting because masculine energy, feminine energy, just the difference in what was going on. And then 2 weeks later, I went back because I had to tell my mind that I can do this, and that I was going to be okay with it. And it was just a different process altogether. But it was just interesting how that moment brought up so much of the old feelings and emotions that I'd sat with. So you just never know
Yeah, no, it comes
when
out of you,
the
when the hell it's
healing's going to happen.
yes.
For me, you just
Especially
never
the
know.
purge cycles coming through out of nowhere.
Oh
You're
my
just like, what
goodness.
the hell? The most,
Yeah.
how are you thinking that you can get upset in video, not even relevant? And you think, why would that video upset? It's bizarre sometimes the stuff that comes out. But is that
I
why
know.
you did yoga? Is that why you did yoga? Also to help you be present, to feel the body, or do you do it? Do you teach it, or what is the yoga part?
I used to teach it, and the yoga part was very much. I'm getting back into it now again, but I'd had affected my knees many many years ago. I didn't listen. I come from a dancing background, and I tweaked one of my right knees, and it throws the body out completely. But the yoga was for me to get out of my mind and into my body, and I did a course also where I can't think of the gentleman's name, Thomas somebody or other, where he worked with Vietnam vets. And our nervous systems are so um, we live so in a state of fight or flight most of the time. And this was where I did a 6-week course where he gets you into the nervous system, and you do I think like 8 to 9 different real strong poses, and then you lie on your back, and then you lift up your buttocks, and you're in froggy pose, and you start to tremor, So you and I both know, how a buck, it gets away from a lion. And have you ever seen this? And when it gets away, it starts to tremor.
Yeah,
Now,
after
again,
a
we're
way,
not
it's a
taught
really,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're not taught that. And the next minute it starts to graze. We're not taught that as kids. We're not taught that as humans. We hold, we hold, we hold. So this tremoring started to help me a lot in terms of letting go, because we hold even down into a bone cellular level. We hold that pattern. We hold that feeling of
Ah,
whatever that feeling may be.
mm,
So as I started doing yoga, I got more into my body.
yeah.
But I'm still working with the energy around my knees. And then I went on a skiing trip, and I hurt my one knee,
Mm.
and slowly but surely over time, my knees were completely swollen. But I always had that knee jerk reaction, that knee jerk response, that knee jerk response was from the mouth, that I was always on, I was always defensive, I was always stubborn, I was
That's a
always.
sign. I'm very defensive. That's a sign of trauma. That's a sign. I know. I noticed that because I know when you've been through it yourself and you've been there, you see it in other people. You're able to identify it. You're like, when they aren't. But it really does
Exactly.
help, like the Tai Chi and Qigong, and that really, really helps, I find, especially when you're feeling, say, when the energies are high now and you're feeling a bit, new things coming in, you can feel, as you say, out of the body, you can feel disorientated, you can feel that helps you be back again in the body. So a bit of breathing or a bit of, and I
Yes,
find if energies, it helps to ground your energy again. So I found
yes,
that very, very grounding. So I think anyone with any of those, going through any of that, should really do that.
absolutely. Any
Very
practice that
helpful.
is just kind of, and if you're feeling like, oh, I can't get into this, that's where breath is just really, really incredible, and I just find even just taking my shoes off on a lovely day and going to go stand in the grass.
Uh,
Or I go and I go into the rivers here are also equally as cold. I'll take my shoes off and I'll just go stand in and I'll just breathe it all in. So I really still am working through my own traumatic responses. But the beauty of the work that's been done over time is exactly like you're saying. I used to talk at people, from my own defense mechanisms because I wanted to be heard. Like, just hear me, And it's not to say that it doesn't happen. If my husband and I go into a space where, I'll say to him, I can feel I'm starting to, you're not hearing me. I need to walk away. And this could be like an hour and a half later. And I'll say to him, you're not listening. And he just wants to sort it out there. And then I said, that's not getting done, because I can start to feel I'm starting to get like that caged animal, and then throw in a bit of menopause. Ha ha ha.
Gone a really long time.
Menopause just takes you straight back to being a teenager, man, and it's just like, bring it on. So
It's, you're projecting again. When you get triggered, it's projection. Because
exactly.
if you can stay in that higher perspective, if you can tap in and stay there in that position, you're able to just see it from a higher consciousness. But as soon as you drop back into the mind again, you've gone. You're on the 3D.
Absolutely, that limbic brain is
completely unconscious, unaware of it's
absolutely. Absolutely. And even the fight, flight, fright response happens in such a minuscule of a moment. And then I don't like myself, then I'm the one that's going, oh my God, there it is, So it's just it's really having to navigate.
You just project or react.
Exactly. And it doesn't get us anywhere, Anna. That's the thing, when we're in that space of, and this is what I've been saying to my husband,
but this is what happened to the planet, the karmic cycle. It's just been around. Oh, you just thought you could get stuck in that. Like, wow.
Yeah. Well, can I share an experience yesterday of and this is when I realized again of just being in a space of being humble, compassionate, and kind, where I had Jehovah's Witnesses come and knock on the door, and now we grew up where it was like, oh my God, there's the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now they're also human beings.
I know.
and it was quite funny because
but society, that was a projection. That's how everyone was, but I'm saying this is we were like pack animals. When
exactly,
you're in that lower consciousness, I know you really are. You just follow the tribe.
Absolutely, we're two beautiful women, and the woman just said, can we come in? And I said to them, respectfully, I said, my belief system is very different to your belief system. And I said, and I'm not going to waste your time or my time. I said, but I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, because clearly you're taking time to go knock on people's doors.
They being authentic as well. That's what they really believe in it. So they believe.
Exactly. And who's to say that it's wrong? And we ended up having a wonderful 10-minute conversation, and it was just, they said to me, they said, you're obviously South African, and we've heard that we've got some South African friends, and we've heard that, you guys have had quite a intense few years in your lives. And I said, yes. And we just found a compassionate place to be with each other. Where there was no labels about, well, this is what you do and this is what I do. And
that's the future.
It was just beautiful. It was just really harmonious and beautiful. And they said, thank you so much. What's your name? And I asked them their names. And
that's the future. So we're going to be tolerant. Doesn't matter. We're going to have that. We're going to be tolerant of all. Not everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon. We've got to be able to live and respect and tolerate everybody, because they have different levels of consciousness, different frequencies, different beliefs, different cash. So if we can all just, okay, I love and respect, that's what you believe, mine is totally different, but it doesn't matter. I love you. And there's full, exactly, love, compassion. There's no separation, because that separation thing is like, wow, big problem.
Exactly. And the old Michelle would have been like, no, thank you very much, but thank you, I wish you the best day ever, and then sort of close the door. And then I would have felt like terrible after that, where I just thought to myself, actually, there is no separation here. They're doing what they want to do in terms of what works for them, and they want to share their
the old Michelle would have been defensive. I'm going to defend myself, my position. You see, this is why everyone's defending his. That's why they were all fighting. There's a defense. So you're not being authentic. That's why it didn't feel good and it didn't work out, because you were not being true to yourself and saying you weren't speaking your truth. So we oppressed our truth to appease them, and vice versa. This is why. But now we're learning to speak our truth, but in a kind, loving, compassionate way. So everybody's happy because we're speaking our truth, but we're not saying you're wrong. We are,
Yes.
there's no divide. We're seeing the unity, and we're speaking our truth, and we accept, and we're fully loving, accepting their truth. Look at the wonderful result. Everyone was happy. Bloody perfect.
I mean, and if we could just live like that in that space,
Oh yes.
24 hours a day, it would be freaking amazing, you know. And it's not too, okay, because now this for me is where we can also superficially bypass, or spiritually superficially bypass, the human experience, you know, where everything's just love and light. And I say that respectfully, because that is the beauty of how we're all aiming to be. But at the same time, we still have a very
Oh,
real
we can't
human
deny
experience.
what experience is. No, as I say, we can't pretend we experience something, as you say, we can't suppress it. There's a difference. Before, it's like, oh, no, we don't want to see. We allow that, okay, I recognize, because it's a messenger. We
Yes.
don't get attached. We don't get attached to our things and money and objects and this and that and people. There's no non-attachment to any outcome, to anything, and then there's just peace.
I know.
You can just be in that place of non-attachment to the thought, to the emotion. It's upon you. It's not yours. But when we say I am, then you're claiming that, and that's it. Now you're holding that energy.
Yeah.
You don't want to
That
hang
is
on to any of that
true.
energy. It's heavy. Let's
I
go.
know.
Set it
I know.
free. It
Well,
wants to move.
that, you know what, and this takes me to the intergenerational trauma that we hold on to,
Oh
that
my.
we're not even aware of. And that's where, even going into the organs of the body, and, you know, again, it's teaching empowerment, because sometimes people don't even realize that we're actually holding on to our parents' fear. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're holding on to their anger or their irritation. And again, it's just a moment
We
of
took
like,
it
oh,
on as
actually,
well when we were kids too. Remember, we energetically, maybe it wasn't verbalized, but we took it on. And if you notice your family, I picked up that, because when you get to meditation, you get to a certain level, like this starseed thing. And then I was hitting a roof, and there was just no one seemed to have a higher level of knowledge. And it was like, okay, what levels of consciousness? It felt like I was just, it is more, but we weren't, getting there. And then I sat and they said, like they always said, this is all these ET things and all those things, they call it the realm of illusion. It's a distraction. You must
yeah.
ignore it. So when you get like these beings, it's a distraction. So you see ETs, they try and talk to you, so you must ignore them. You sit there, and that's when you go past that. So
Ah,
as these things come up, and these beings, I did it, it works. As these beings come up and things come up, you don't, because it's the same thing, like as within, so without, as above, so below. Exterior
yes.
distractions, they are distractions in the astral. So he said you ignore them, and you just sit there. Same with thoughts, you ignore it, you don't try and focus on them or look for that. Look, it's the same thing, seeking for something else, and wait, and then you see. And then you start getting deeper. Then things start being revealed. And I was like, oh, holy wow. Because I found out everything's frequency and vibration. We know this, especially now, especially science is going to really focus on that. But so if you understand, you had to choose that family, you have to be frequency matches. So there are things, frequencies that you are all sharing if you're in a family. You're all having you've got frequencies that are you're overlapping, with its shame, with its sexual attachment. So what I found in my family was sexual, what do you call it? Well, I suppose Buddhists would say attachment, right? So where they were, but it all had something to do with sex, right? So my one, sexual abuse, rape, geez, there was all kinds of this shit within the family. Ooh, I was like, okay, wow. So all of these things were coming up in our family. And I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, wow, this is strange. So you're finding these things going through, or an attachment, or you had a weakness. This was your attachment, but as the Buddhists call it. People get our version of attachment is a bit confusing. It's not attachment where it is a thing to you, where you're looking for that in a relationship. You're looking for that love, that you want to feel that closeness, physical closeness, or that's what you see. Everything it's a need. So you are looking for love outside. Your attachment is food, or your attachment is this, or everyone's got a different thing. And that's what I found, I saw running through. Then I thought, okay, wow, where does this come from?
Yeah.
And I went back into my past lives, and it was going back to the Roman times.
Gosh, wow.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Very interesting. And that's
Yeah.
where I figured out this was a weakness. And I'd been playing relationship for this love, physical relationship. It was a attachment of physical. Was running right back into the Roman times.
Gosh. Wow.
Very
Well,
interesting.
I know when I've gone under the regression, one of my past lives, and nobody ever wants to admit this or know this, but I was a Nazi, and
Yeah,
it
we had
was
good and bad, trust me.
absolutely, and it's you know, and I remember when I went on a Kontiki tour when I was 19 years old, and I went to Auschwitz, and it was like I could, you know, I knew nothing about energy at that time. And I just remember feeling so much. It was just very, besides obviously the knowing of what had happened, but
Oh, oh,
heaviness, you know. And the same has happened when I went to Hawaii. And, you know, this is now like a few years ago. And when I was studying integrative quantum medicine and went into these spiritual places, but man, the releasing of so much of the old, of what I was holding on to, was just incredible. And I just knew, I'd been in Hawaii. I mean, I used to love watching.
well, Mu, part of Lemuria was Hawaii, part of Hawaii.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, and I knew I'd been there, and I am. I'm an absolute water baby. Like I
Yeah,
love
me too.
snorkeling and love being in the
Me too.
water. And
Maybe that's where we go back. Past lives in Atlantis,
ah,
but I've got past lives on water planets, water beings.
wow,
And
okay,
that makes sense. In Atlantis, guess what? If you're working with, you probably worked with the whales because they used to come into the temple, actually into Atlantis, like a waterway, they could actually come through. So we could actually work with the whales and speak to them and the dolphins and stuff. So possibly, yeah, definitely
oh,
something to do with that. So there's something we shared and one of the
makes
past
such sense.
but
Makes I've always connected with dolphin
me
energy,
too.
and even when
Ooh,
we
and
went to
whales,
Mozambique.
massively.
And yeah,
Yeah.
we went to Mozambique in 2015, and I mean, we were able to swim in
Did
like
you swim
in
with the
the ocean.
whale sharks?
Oh my God, no, I put it out there, then I heard how big they were, and then I was like,
Oh no, it's amazing. Oh, it's amazing. It was so
I
amazing.
believe it is.
Oh, what an
Yeah.
amazing experience.
But
Oh,
I had a mother dolphin and baby come right here, like I was swimming, and she connected with me, and like I almost just wanted to. I was like, oh my God, like I see
yeah,
you, you know.
yeah.
And after 3 days, because every day we went into the ocean, and the skipper actually said to her, she said, I have never in all these years had dolphins stick around it the way that they have with our group. And I think there were like six of us, you know, and um, and they just played, and I've always, I mean, I almost feel like I can echo, what is it, echolocate, like dolphins can, like
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You probably had life and Sirius, whatever. But there's no, I've completely lost my train of thought now.
dolphins, whales, Lemurians,
Yeah, no, we can go
Hawaii.
on that. Oh, yeah, you can go in esoteric. Here's one, like you're talking about admitting that. People think and they want to be like, oh, no, I've only had good lives. I was only, I remember I was an Actuarian. I'm this, I'm that. No, 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 no. You activate more of your DNA, raise your consciousness frequency and vibration, and you will see past lives.
Yes,
Not the few
yes,
that you get from reading. You're going to see a lot of past lives. You're going to remember on
yes.
other planets and other bloody star systems, and you realize, and you'll also realize the meaning you have. You've experienced everything, source, because all comes from source. The dark, the light, this all comes part of your evolution. You have gone through this evolution, purging nonsense on other planets anyway, killing each other and whatever. And we've destroyed planets, and oh my goodness. So this is only one little round you've played, and you've had so many. And if you believe everything is law, and now we know frequency vibration, right? So could you imagine the shit you must have got up to bring karma to yourself? You know what I mean? So, because that's what I'm saying. I mean, I saw some lives where, oh man, I died really badly. Wow, I was hunted and persecuted like an ornament. And I mean, they used to abduct me. They used to do this to me and do that to me. I was another being. Oh, I used to get all over the body. So I was like, wow. I mean, I died some really bad ways, and I was kept in a cage, and I was all kinds of things. So I was like, woo. And I mean, obviously, we've all had the stoning, been stoned to death. You've done this, you've done that. I mean, you've died every freaking way you can possibly imagine, because it's only a dream. You are literally source. That's when things said you wake up. It's like, oh, there was a dream, because you are. You
Well,
are
every
only a
cell has a
projection of
memory.
consciousness.
Yeah.
So
Well, every
people are like,
cell.
oh no, I never, most people don't want to tell other people other past lives. Oh no, no, you're not Pleiadian. Your
I know.
soul source is no beginning of time. It's from the beginning of time. Your consciousness, and you've only raised so much frequency and vibration that you just can't remember how many other ones you've had and how many other planets you've been on. So I thought, oh shit, because first of all, we know we chose that life. So if these things had happened to me, I never worried. It's like, okay, let them go. Forgive them, yeah, forgive, no problem. It's because I'm not stressed about whatever this one did to me and that did to me, because I know I chose that life. You know, you see the whole life basically ahead of you. So you knew you chose that life for a reason. So nothing would have happened to you unless you consented. So I know that I'd consented to be abducted or whatever, just all kinds of nasty ways, to learn compassion or to do this or to do that, or calm, because I did it. So I thought, shit, what the hell did I must have really had I must have been a real nasty being. And I was, if I remember correctly, I was a being that, wow. So I must have then suffered another whole epoch on another planet, being a being that was constantly victimized and hunted and all kinds. I was like, oh, you see that this is how it works. And it's all it's an experience. So the soul learns from all angles. You need to experience it. When you die, you see, people don't realize that. They see your life flashes before you, but what they don't tell you is the experience that everybody else. So what I feel, so I said to people, I'm a great one for spreading compassion and no judgment. And when I talk about now what's going, and I said to people, do not judge these people that are doing wrong, or you believe are doing wrong, right? And some maybe is with intention doing really, doing really bad things, right, to a lot of people. Oh, I said, my heart absolutely has such bleeds, cries for that. You want to cry for those people. You really have. I have. Oh my hell, because they do not know what suffering and karma, because they haven't stepped and chosen to drop the karmic cycle. They're still in this, and they have no clue. I mean, I think, oh, I actually really do. You don't want to wish it on your worst enemy, because you do not want to know how many lives they're going to be coming back, especially because they haven't learned. So and then they're going to be a victim, and they're going to hate and not forgive, and they're going to, it's just going to be a cycle. They're going to be trapped in a terrible cycle of suffering. So what they don't understand, and this is what most people don't realize, is when you die, yes, you're seeing your whole life, and it was freaking awesome, and you bloody loved it, no matter what trauma. Mine was like, wow, that was amazing. I was so happy. It's dumbfounding to you exactly what you think. What? People know, nope, my life was perfect. It was perfect. Yeah. But what? These people, if you've done something really terrible to someone else, understand when you pass away, you experience exactly what they experience. So if you tortured them, you're going to feel that suffering and that pain. And you're going to feel what they feel. You feel it all. You experience it all from everybody's perspective. And that's what I'm saying. Could you imagine? So what you inflict on someone else, you are going to feel it. And then you're going to think, oh, wow, that was bad. Okay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put myself in that, and I'm going to be that person who's going to experience that. Then I won't do it again. That's what I'm saying. So please never, never throw the stone and judge somebody or throw stones, because first of all, none of us, if you could see your cash or had any wisdom, you can't pick up that pebble. It's like, no, okay, maybe not, because you've been down there. If you knew that, you've been it all. You've been everything, victim, and all of it. That's just how it works.
Yeah, I got the standing joke, and I say to my guides, you know what, like Tom Cruise coming down on his like little, in Mission Impossible, and I'm like, I'm just gonna check out Earth next time and be like, nah, guys, take me back, and if you freaking cut that bungee cord, watch me.
But the thing
like
is,
this, I'm hoping this is my last life cycle, and that's what I'm just like in it. I just want to heal.
We don't take them back. We choose to come back here.
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Well, it also depends on you how fast you want to transcend it. I mean, if you work on enlightenment, if you work the Buddha path, if you want to transcend this, yes, we're going there. Now you can. Now is the time to do it. Now is the time to really put all your effort into that. Into mastering it. It's to master energy. We came here to master energy, which is mastering the mind and the body. Because if you don't learn to, that's it.
Yeah.
What is the mind? It produces all the energy, because the thought produces the emotion, and it's like just, so yeah, as a Buddhist, yeah, you're right there. That's
I
why I
know.
say to people, the saddest thing was, I remember, so I was channeling videos last year or something. I used to do a lot of stuff used to just come pouring through. And I did one on forgiveness. It was one of the least watched videos. And I thought it is probably one of the most important videos I could have done.
Wow. Incredible.
And people don't get the importance of that. I was like, oh, you've got to do it. It's so important for you. I could never forgive them. And then you don't want to say, but if that happened to you in this life, could you imagine what you did to the last life to that person? No, go forgive that. Break that karmic cycle. Set them free. Set yourself free. So the cycle, so you're not holding them, and we're not coming back. And I'm going to be the one who's going to do it to you, and you're going to suffer. Oh no.
Yeah.
This is why we've got to this thing now. This new ascension is to break that pattern. And the ones that choose, you can ascend up, or you can, remain on the going around in the karmic cycle for the next thousands and thousands of years.
Well, you've actually brought a really, really valid point in this lifetime, is that because a lot of people always ask me this, well, Michelle, how do you forgive? I mean, some of the stuff that's some of my stories, let me put it that way, some of my stories and what's happened and what's been created, I almost want to say, like, I have to be choicy with my words here, because it's not why it happened to me, because that takes me into victim mode. It's like, what people have done to me. Well, on the biggest level, I've created what I've created in this lifetime, and my sexual abuse was one of them. Being 5 years old, and I didn't even know it was an issue. It was my uncle, and until I was a teenager. Now, often people have gone, how did you forgive him? Well, it was such a cycle, because I had to learn to forgive myself first in the experience and the story, as at being 5 years old, not knowing any different. Then I had to learn to forgive him. Then I had to learn to forgive my parents in the story as well. And because none of them spoke up when I told them. I was 33 years old when I told them. And, they still chose to have my uncle a part of their life. Now, as the mother that I am, I'd be like, if my brothers had done something like that to my daughter, I would have been like, you're out of my life. But I know that I don't have to have them a part of my life, but I've still got to learn to forgive them, and because I would be holding on to the
better. Exactly. It's their choice.
And the resentment. And
what they do is going to affect them. It's their karma. It's their thing. All we got to worry about is what you do. My mother died of cancer at 62 because she could not forgive. She was so hurt. She hung on to so much pain and suffering. And I said to her, funny enough, about 10 years before, I said, you hang on to it, let go of all that hurt and grief. It's going to give you cancer. She got cancer. But this is where it comes from. It's energy, and it's such strong energy, suppress it, it's going to kill you, literally. And then you're going to come back and you have to repeat the lesson again. So you forgive to set yourself free. Because
absolutely,
I know people, I don't want to say, I know, Michelle, especially with what you're doing, you've got to be very iffy. They've got to see it themselves. Like when I saw why I went through that trauma, I was mind blown. I started laughing when they showed me. I was like, oh, because I couldn't have believed it. I couldn't have made it up. I was like, really? I chose that? Wow. I was mind blown when I was shown why everything. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, it freed me. It was like I was set free because I understood why I experienced this. I was like, wow. And I laughed. I could actually laugh at what I went through. I was like, wow. But some people, if you say to them, they would like, I would never have chosen that. You see in the consciousness that when you were a little kid, chosen that. I don't know why. You don't choose it because not on a 3D level of consciousness, but your soul chose that family, that circumstance. You knew that possibility or that thing was there. You chose it for a reason. And I promise you, there's always a very benevolent, because your soul has been able to higher reason why you chose to
sure.
That.
Well, guess who my first clients were when I started counseling? Sexually abused young women. So the universe just brought those mirrors into my space because we were both helping each other to heal. Because at the time, I still had, I mean, this goes back 15 years, I still had that infuriating anger inside of me. And I was like, oh, because it's just like you feel helpless, obviously, on so many different levels. But as time is, because a lot of people say to me, or ask me the question, well, Michelle, how do you forgive? And how do you let go? And I say, well, guys, it's layers, it's different layers. And when was it? I think 2019 was when I felt like my story was complete in letting go the sexual abuse, because he's come to me in past lives. I've been a part of his past life. It's but basically what happened was in the cycle of, and it's not every time I've gone for a session or a healing session or whatever, just every now and again, even actually in my yoga teacher training, one of the guys actually morphed into what looked like my uncle. I was like, oh my gosh, because there was still a feeling that was coming up for me. And then, like I said, the process of letting go of the anger I felt towards my parents, and that was like 3 years ago. And then
you felt hopeless. You felt you want them to protect you. Angry as they didn't protect you.
Yes, exactly. Not being a voice of reason, or a voice of, and he actually admitted it when I told my parents. My dad, they were having a brather one day, and my dad said, Michelle said, this is what you've done. And he admitted it to my dad, and my dad said, don't you think you owe Michelle an apology? I never got it until I went through this process of, and this is when we still lived in South Africa, of coming here and then having to forgive my parents for the part that they played in it. And then, because my dad didn't even tell me that he had actually addressed him, that he had actually even asked him, and that he had admitted it. And it was fascinating because I sent him a message on Facebook Messenger, and the very next day, and he wasn't a friend of mine on Facebook Messenger, and it goes into message requests and whatever, and I just said to the universe, if he's meant to see this, he will see this. And I just let him know exactly how I felt. I let him know, and he came back and he gave me an apology, and he just said, I'm sorry, I was this young man going through puberty, and can you please forgive me? And I had a little bit of a tear, and my husband looked at me and said, and how do you feel? And I said, I feel like the story's done. And but it's not.
As we older, we also see it from another perspective, is that to do something wrong, you've got to be so disconnected from, because who we are, when you start tapping in that real essence, that, like you said, that pure light is source. It is so benevolent, so loving. There is no, so the further, as I say, the dark and denser energy, or the worst, whatever, the further you are away, you're so lost, you're so in such a low frequency, you're so disconnected from your soul to even think of doing something like that, because our essence, who we be, is pure light and pure love. That's just who we actually are out of a body. So it is like, so you just think, that's why I say to people, please, even with these people now, when whatever comes up and whatever comes out, who did what, and whatever's going to be revealed. My sympathy for these people, because you can imagine how disconnected and how they're going to suffer for what they've done.
Absolutely. Well, there's that, but also I think it's also important that people know that, like, even if I went back to South Africa, because I don't know if the right word is allow, but because I've worked through the layers of forgiveness, it doesn't mean I'm going to go there and go like, hi, here I am, I'm coming to forgive you. I just choose not to have him in my space. That's it, And there's been a karmic cycle, interesting enough, because my dad, he stole business away from my dad, and it did irk me, because I just wanted to go, what the hell, man, dude? Like, when are you just gonna just stop? But it's like you said, he's so disconnected. But yet, when you hear what their bodies are going through and how they're actually manifesting stuff, what I've heard, and I've gone, wow, this is interesting. Not yes, you deserve it, because then I'm not in that place.
Or you're taking it on what you wish and what you put on someone else, and it comes back to you. That's what I'm saying. People think, oh, you're going to forgive. It's like you can be nice to them. You don't have to, but you call this the higher self. You speak. You can do it in meditation, even if they're not here. Some the people that are still alive and not alive, you call one by one and you talk to them and you ask, telepathically, and you cut the things, you set the soul free, you ask them to give. So it's not repeating. So even if you hadn't, you just like, okay, let's just drop it now. So you're setting them free, that you're not, because it's unresolved business. Otherwise, you've got to come back again. And you're going to have to replay it. So what are you doing is, and that doesn't mean exactly, you freed yourself and you set them free now, and they're free to go for their life, and you get on with their life. You don't have to have anything to do with them. You don't have to reconnect with them or have any association with them, but you are cutting that contract, that agreement, the pledges, the karma, that whatever. That's what you do. You're cleaning the slate. So you are completely stepping yourself free, That's how you free yourself from them. Now you're freed completely. You don't have to come back in another life and let's do this again. No,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, I'm had enough of this.
I love the way you go, no, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm like, yep, I'm there.
How many times you have to go around and you get, well, and no more suffering. You want out of the suffering. That's why, as the Buddha said, there's some sorrow. You realize, if your wisdom makes you realize, I just want out, I'm tired of this. I don't want to go around and suffer. And so you have a life, like enough karma in one life. You're so sick of the suffering. You're like, that's it. I'm out. I've had enough.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
It's
Yeah.
just the
And it's a very freeing place to be there, Anna. It's a very freeing place to, even through, without going into the negativity of what COVID has brought. But I remember standing at the airport. I was still in South Africa and I was getting back to New Zealand. And I remember standing and looking around me and just going, wow, look at all this fear. And I was standing and, because people were trying to get to the airplanes, and it was 2 days before the border was going to close, the gates were going to close here for New Zealanders. And I remember just getting this message, smile.
Mm.
And the interesting thing is, symbolically, I was reading this book called Awesomeism, which is about autistic children. And it had a blue cover, and I was reading it while I was standing in the line, and I got this smile. So I started smiling, and I was like, really? I must smile? Okay. And then next minute, one man saw me in the queue, and we were, you're snaking while you're going through
It's
customs.
that energy. It is, and it also breaks its chi. It's good chi. Clears your field. Laughter.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting because then this one man and I connected, and he kept trying to check me out, and I thought, and I said to my husband, this is all fear. The fear is incredible, and I just kept trusting and being like, okay, and that's the freeing part, where we step away into the essence of who we actually are and go, this is not.
It doesn't matter what's going on around. So I say the Buddhists, that is why you say it. That's why you want to try and to really master, get control of the mind. Eventually, that's everyone's aim. That's where we go, the planet. And you won't have any negative thoughts, period. And then we won't have any, as humanity, we won't manifest any more negativity, any bad experiences, anything. We don't realize that we're creating it. So as the mind, as they say, so it's so important to master our mind and our thoughts, because it just goes off and it beats you up. I mean, it's
oh man,
it's the biggest terrorist on the planet, your bloody mind. I mean, really, it terrorizes a living. It can be really cruel. Some of those things are like, oh, but that's the shadow. That's the shadow side. That's what I say to master. That's the lower ego, or the shadow, that part is just to overcome those two things, and that's it. Then you are free. I mean, you'll never be manifesting. It's to break that cycle.
Well, have you noticed when you talk about your purging, because a lot of people are, when we're in a low vibration, is where we hold a lot of our energy in our root chakra, sacral and solar plexus, and that's where, you said it early on, as above, so below. So even if we turned ourselves upside down, there's still, this is kind of like root, sacral, and solar plexus. Okay, we know it's known as different, but how many people have got thyroid issues now because they haven't spoken up?
Might look at mine. See that cyst?
Yes.
Yeah, that was manifested because of me all suppressing my voice, the hurt, the anger, the crying, the fear. For so many years, I manifested a tumor cyst there.
Wow, interesting. Well, that's where, and it's man, we're so multi-level and multi-layered, and if there's one thing that I would love for anybody to know, it's that you're worth it. You're worth it to start the work, because a lot of people get scared, and it's just allowing our vulnerability. That's all it is. And think of it like when we were kids. When we were babies, if we were allowed to cry, we were allowed to cry, and it's just a moment in time. But it's interesting again how the mind just takes us into a space of shit, I don't want to cry, I don't want to be vulnerable. But yet it's the most freeing. People always, when they've allowed themselves, whether it's dainty tears or not, afterwards they go,
because we didn't understand. We were frightened of the feeling. But that's what I'm saying. It was never explained to us that the feeling is only a messenger. So that's why it doesn't go. This is why it gets worse. It's a press. It'll just get bigger and bigger because we are not. It's coming to show. It's doing its job. It's becoming to show. It's only there to deliver a message. So if we say, I see your anger. I see your fear. Thank you very much for bringing it to my attention. And so it's basically letting you know you have something you need to look at. That's it. But none of us knew that. So it was like, go away, go away, go away. And we try and hold it, suppress it, fight it, whatever, and whatever, it comes up and you're like, no, push it down. I'm not going to cry. But then, of course, it's its job. It will not leave. So, I mean, we build up so much of that. Oh, my. I remember seeing it. It was like, this is what it was showing you. It's for people to rise above this. It was like you see these souls coming out of mud. It looked like this black layer. It was like mud. Say it was just mud. And you see these souls rising up through the mud, rising up. This is what about a year ago they said people have to overcome, let go of the darkness and the shadow, and overcome it. You have to rise above all of this now.
Yeah.
Rise out of it. It's like you see them rising out of the darkness, like ching, ching, popping up like popcorn. Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Oh.
You just reminded me about a video. Oh, there's two things that I wanted to mention earlier when you spoke about Bashar and the symphony. There's a wonderful, amazing high frequency music on YouTube. The guy's called Sapien Medicine, and his website is called enlightenedstates.com, but it's all different kinds of vibration. And like I had a bladder infection 3 weeks ago, and I just kept listening to the one around bladder, kidney. He's got so much for throat, for and
that's the water element, I think. Tai Chi, the water element. Yeah.
Absolutely, but even if people are he's got ones for subconscious blocks, ones for knees, for animals, and he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart, and he's had people.
Stick it in the comments. What we'll do is stick it in. You can send me the link. I'll stick it in the comment section, or not the comment section, underneath on YouTube, and post it to YouTube. We'll upload this to YouTube. Underneath there, the description story. You can put a link under the description.
Yes,
we can stick the things there.
Yeah. And it's just helping our bodies to heal, because he works with the morphic field, and he works with energy, and he reminds us that we are light. Like the last 3-4 days, I've been overeating. You talk about purging. I've been purging.
I don't know where I was. I joined the club. I don't know why. All of a sudden, I got exactly when these energies came in 31st. I was at it with a caramel popcorn. 2 packets.
Really? Yeah. Oh, that's also one of my favorites. Yeah.
And it just not the taste. It was like, no, I don't like that. My body doesn't want to.
Yeah, but I felt uncomfortable, and that's why even last night I just thought, no, man, I've got to eat light. So I had a salad, and that's probably why I slept so well. Remember, I said to you, I woke up feeling like I've had such a big sleep. But I just realized that even with us being light beings, is that it really is fine tuning into our bodies, having those moments, but the last 2 to 3 nights, besides last night, I was like, I've got to eat lighter, man, because it's not serving my body. And that's where we really got to tune in. Yeah.
I'm guilty there. And you do, your stomach, it won't digest it. And you can't, like in the old days, as I was saying to people, because your frequency is going up. And whatever not a frequency match, it's just not a match. And same with people, as we go up on the planet, we might see more and more people leaving the planet. It's because frequency match. People don't realize, things are going to give out. They're just going to get sick, that, whatever. It's because literally, and I channeled this about a year ago, but I didn't understand what they were saying. And I was saying people are going to come into the planet and they will live a lot shorter. It'll be like groups of us now. We're going to split between the light and dark, because automatically their behavior will change in order for them to be able to stay on the planet.
True.
And the same with the frequency. If you don't let go of stuff, they're not going to be able to, the dark dense energy, they're not. Think about it. Same with us. We can't exist in the fifth dimension because we're not a frequency match. Nothing can be in your existence unless it's a matching frequency. But this is what's happening now with the foods. The stuff that we were eating, it was modified or poisonous or toxic, whatever else, is at a lower frequency. We weren't living long, because everything has a frequency, even illnesses have a frequency. When you get a certain frequency, they don't exist either. Same with cancer, it won't be in your frequency. So this is what's happening now. As we're rising, these foods that are not good for us and that are heavy are not compatible. I mean, I've got so many things I haven't been able to eat anymore. Wow, I've gone through. It's like it's sort of
And I used to challenge this because if you think of it, we're energy, okay? So like I used to challenge literally from a defensive perspective, because I really thought we could eat everything. And I would challenge it in the sense, well, if we're energy, can we not put the energy in to what we're eating, what we're drinking? Can we not
You can
put this
set your intention, but remember, it was made with that. So whoever made that food, their energy or their intent, whatever was into it, is, what you
so
get.
can we not shift that?
I don't know, but it's not compatible. I know that it is strange, because also, there's such a thing as belief. I did as well think of that, because you see like certain people that were told like they're living off meat and honey or just blood and milk, and they are so healthy and fit, because generations and also very deep belief system. Our belief system doesn't run that deep, because we know we've been brought up, vitamins and fruit and vegetables and a healthy diet. So yeah, ours is not that ingrained. So I think you're pushing it. You really got to have a very solid ground and knowing to shift. If you're knowing and your diet's been so, you can't try and, oh well, I just, because you're not solid in that belief and foundation, so it won't work.
Yes.
You're thinking
And
something, believing it. It's a different.
I'm not, sorry to interrupt. I'm not for 1 second suggesting to anybody that eat McDonald's every single day. It's like, yeah. So just know that, like, people are going, okay, Michelle said, put your energy in, your good energy, because obviously there
with
is
water, like a motor, right? We know that it changed, and you can. I used to do it, go and sit there, send it in. But that's what even every mistake. When you're eating, I do thank you. So you do thanks to source, thanks to the elements for your food, thank you to the being, and you thank your food. But you said also, when you're in alignment, so you're happy and you actually like consciously eating. We're not watching a video while we're eating and doing this, and you still fear, it drops your. That's when you're going to actually get the benefits from it. But when you're out of alignment and you negative fear, whatever else, you stress, you're eating, you're not going to get the benefits from it. It won't benefit your health either.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know.
Have you ever done plant medicine at all? Like, have you done psilocybin or ayahuasca or?
I won't do. I'm very much follow the Buddhist training on that side, and then when they have specialized you can't reach, or they've achieved the highest levels you can get, basically, and being able to control over the body, everything. And they will not. If you want to become any one of those or join or get a thing, you cannot take you can't be addicted, you can't have alcohol, and you can't take any mind altering, because they're very, especially any mind altering substance. And I've also seen the clause. It was the same. It makes sense to me. It's the same with drugs, and it's been pushed. It's been very much pushed now in the awakening thing. People got to think. They don't think. It's been very, it's good, it's all wonderful, and it's been shoved out there massively in the awakening, like it was in Woodstock, which was a test run. People don't think. They're not, as I'm saying, it's just, there we are. It's wisdom learning.
Well, I think as
you get used to something, it's like, oh, take this because it'll help you do this, help you. You are going to get used, like a drug. It's got no difference between any drug. It's mind altering. You're getting used to it. Oh, no, I have better trips. I can do this. I can reach higher levels. I can, when I do ayahuasca, when I do this, you see, instead of training, doing the hard work and doing it yourself, you're going to become reliant on something to get you that experience, to give you that trip, to do that. That's the problem, you see.
Yes.
It's like
look, I am of the opinion everything's about balance. And I think they're incredibly healing if you're with a practitioner because I agree with you 100% that people are always seeking the next thing, and it's on the outside as opposed to being on the inside. You clearly have an incredibly strong mind to have gone through the healing that you've gone through, to see the past lives. A lot of people don't know how to access that. And I've been like, I didn't do marijuana. I was just like a real late bloomer. Okay, like none of that kind of stuff came into my consciousness. I was clubbing, and I was never a big drinker.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know drugs, ecstasy was being passed around me.
I was always being not to let anything get the hang of you or master you.
Yeah, it was just
it's
fascinating. Absolutely. But I think that the biggest thing with anything is, if it can help to help trauma, because for me, especially, I know there's a beautiful documentary called Fantastic Fungi, and if you ever watch it, he actually uses psilocybin, and he had a terrible stutter, and he looked down, and he just asked for the stutter to leave, and he had taken a whole bunch of mushrooms, And the next day his stutter was gone. He was able to actually, so there's definitely a place for this kind of stuff.
Yes, it
But
always has been, especially in a lower consciousness, because you see in the old days, in the old energy, it was hard to access the higher consciousness because and the veil was much thicker. But that's why people think, oh, ancestors did it because it's all fine. But they did it is because they forgot how to do it. That's why they had to go, like in the Egyptians, when we had fallen so much after Atlantis, those tombs and those sarcophagus were to practice astral travel. They used to like fear or shock themselves out of the body because it wasn't easy to do astral projection anymore. So they used drugs, they used like the sarcophagus and almost trying to kill themselves, suffocate themselves to actually be able to astral project. So they could go back and see and fortune things, foresee things that are coming. That's actually really what happened. It wasn't because it was a tool to help them. But I mean, Buddha's never used it. They managed to achieve the highest levels. It's discipline. You see, it's working. It's the same thing when you start practicing. You see colors and you're not sure. It's tuning. It's keep at it. The third eye. You work on it. You work on it. It's like astral projection. You're gonna work at it. And everybody tells you for free how to do it. But I do have a lot of warnings about that, especially after listening to this one. I know because I say it's for me. It's like I know. It's just common sense and what the Buddhas will tell you. Same thing. They won't let you even do it. You will not be able to get in a practice of Buddhism if you're doing that. They won't accept. They won't tolerate it. But what Bashar said was interesting. I heard some young people talking about it on TikTok about taking some frog, something that comes from animals, some poisonous frog or something. It's going to give you some psychedelic. And he was so I don't know what it was, but some young person asked Bashar one of Bashar's things, and Bashar said no. Oh, be very careful. He said any plant-based, no problem. Do not go with the animal. He said that will give you an experience, a completely different experience you do not want. So do not go for the animal products or frog, whatever it comes from. Plants, he said, not a problem. But he warned very carefully. He said, people do not go down that road.
Yeah.
It's not something to do with their DNA or whatever it is whatever. Do not play with that. But no, I just always been wary of that one.
It's very intense. Yeah, it's a very intense ceremony for me. It's a purging, but it's I think it is. It's this time in life to just be consciously aware of what you're bringing in, what you're vibrating towards, and I think a lot of plants have, like, you look at natural essences. I'm on herbs for my menopause, and man alive, they have completely changed my life. Okay, and in terms of just the difference in my estrogen and my hormones and everything, there's such beautiful balance. And I just hold the bottle, but I look at the naturopath that I go to, and the beautiful energy that she is. And so for me, that's where, when we're bringing people into our space, it's like, oh, where am I at? How am I vibrating?
But we're learning that's what I'm saying. We're learning to be conscious. Like even then I used to be, you get lazy because a lot of us are addicted to social media. So it's also like that, what we watch, what we listen to, music. I've changed music. I can't listen to any of the old music. But think about it. It was all, I broke my heart. Because exactly, that person is singing about their heart, that projection. They're putting up, they're sharing their massive heart. So you're resonating with serious loss and all this. So yeah, you're taking in that energy, which you say like, no, frequency or classical or something. Maybe not.
I know.
I think we should wind it up, my darling, as we're going to.
I know. Because I have a client coming now. I'm starting with my clients this morning. I know
been
it's
on
your
a long time.
but we would talk forever.
Yeah, exactly. We can just like the two of us anyway, just banter along. Exactly. But we will have
I feel like we're in our own orchestra right now. Like
we will have a little catch up. We'll do another one, but I want to go then more into like us and to our past lives and astrals and other things and more, more. Yes. This is basically, I just wanted people to know, because you have that wonderful gift. And if anybody needs healing or from any trauma, help, revisions, work, channeling, please contact her. She's in New Zealand, but you do it online anyway. Hey, your clients all over the world. Doesn't matter where they come from.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed to do what I love and love what I do, and I am very blessed that I've grown word of mouth across the world, and it's the same. It's just, just because we're connecting on a computer, I still am able to tap into a person's energy, um, and it
See
really
it,
is just about
see it,
helping a
read it, and
person.
where the blocks are and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like to hold space for people, and I like to just hold their hearts and just help them to feel the joy again. Because I'm really know that I've shared a little bit of my story today, but I know that when we work through our trauma, we just, like, I'm not the kind of medium that remembers things or remembers things at 3 or 4 years old. I'm sure that I did see it, but I just was so in my life and so in what I was in my 3D existence. And as I've let go and as I've let go and as I've let go, I've raised my vibration. And that's what I want to help people with, is to know that we can.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's it.
yeah,
You can set yourself free for good. Yeah. And
yeah.
suffering and illness and whatever you bring yourself. Thank you, my darling. I love you lots and lots and lots. And we will
Mwah,
catch
love
up
you.
again. Absolutely. We're going to have more of a, just like a more chilled, relaxed gossip
Absolutely,
gander about
absolutely.
all the wonders about there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
my
And
darling, I'm
have
going
a
to.
lekker evening. I can say that to you as a South African.
Well, no, but yes, it is interesting. I'm not actually. It is very complicated. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was born here, British. My parents immigrated there.
Wow.
I was little, so no, but my accent, I actually lost my British accent in my 30s, late 20s.
Really?
I had a very well, I spoke like the Queen's English, yeah.
Wow.
But then the work
Well,
out,
welcome back, South African.
this was, this was the smoking and not speaking the truth, the voice change, the voice, for saying not being suppressing my voice being suppressed.
Incredible.
And
Incredible.
yeah, and everything went anyway. All right, love,
Wow.
I'm going to put
Thank
this
you
off.
so much. Yeah, and we'll speak to you soon. Have a beautiful evening, okay?